Welcome back. In today's lesson, we're going to learn about the chords and songs with common chord progressions in the key of G major. We'll learn the traditional Hawaiian song Aloha Oi, which uses chords and melody derived from the key of G major or the G major scale. Until this point, everything we've learned, aside from the warm-up exercise, has been in the key of C major. Meaning, as you know by now, that the notes in the melody and chord progressions have been selected mostly from the C major scale. The chords and notes used for songs in the key of G major are selected from the pool of notes in the G major scale. Why do we go from the key of C major to the key of G major? Another great question. One common and extremely useful way that we organize the 12 pitches of music is called the circle of fifths. A fifth is an interval. An interval is the distance between any two notes or pitches in music. If you start on any note of the musical alphabet, like C for example, and count up 5 notes, including the C, so C, D, E, F, G, we have 5 notes, so from C to G is the interval of a fifth. That means that G is the next note in the circle of fifths. The reason that we like the circle of fifths is because as we proceed through the cycle, each sequential key signature is very similar or closely related to the previous one. That's kind of a big concept for beginners, so let me break that down for you in the terms of the key of C major and G major. C major scale and all major scales will have the sound of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The distance between each of the notes, or the interval between each notes, is what gives the scale its particular sound or flavor. When we move to the next note in the circle of fifths, in this case, G, 2 things will change. First, we're going to start on the note G and end on the note G instead of C. G will become our do. The second difference between the key of G major and C major is that we're going to change one of the white keys to a black key in order to retain the sound of a major scale. In other words, we're going to add an accidental. In the case of the key of G major, we're going to change that note F to an F sharp. The circle of fifths may help you think about chord progressions and what songs have in common rather than differences. Songs in G and C may in fact have quite similar chord progressions. For example, the keys of G and C major both have C chords, G chords, A minor chords, and E minor chords. I know that one's new. We're going to learn that today. Hang in there. I already said that chords are formed by playing multiple notes from a scale at once. But it's not just any notes. Chords consist of 3 notes and are formed on each degree of a scale. The 1 chord, for example, is built on the first note of a scale, or do, or 1. It also contains the 3rd degree of the scale, or mi, and the 5th note of the scale, or sol, or 1, 3, and 5. These 3 notes together are referred to as the root, 3rd, and 5th. In this course, we will be dealing mostly with chord progressions using 1, 4, 5, and 6 chords in various keys. In other words, chords built on the 1st degree of the scale, the 5th degree of the scale, the 6th degree of the scale, and the 4th degree of the scale. Today we'll learn 3 new chords in the key of G: D major, D7, and E minor. Let's learn the D major chord. If we look at the chord diagram for D major, we'll see that the D major chord uses 3 fingers on 3 different strings, all on fret 2. There are 2 different ways to do this. The easiest way to remember is to start with your index finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, and then add your middle finger to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and then add your ring finger to the second fret of the second string. The first string should be open and clean, like that. Try strumming all 4 strings together. Make sure you're pressing hard and your fingers are curved so they're not interfering with other strings, especially the first string. Here we go. D chord. Also, an alternate fingering for the D major chord that I like a lot is with your middle finger on the second fret of the 4th string, your index finger on the second fret of the 3rd string, and your ring finger on the second fret of the 2nd string. So we're playing the same notes, just with a slightly different fingering. I personally find it easier to squeeze my fingers into the 2nd fret by doing this shape. D major. They sound the same because they are the same. I'm just switching my middle and index finger. You can decide which one you like. They're both great. The next new chord we're going to take a look at is D7, or D dominant 7. We can get to the D7 from the D major by removing whichever finger we have placed on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. In my case, it's the index finger. I will remove the index finger and make sure that string 3 sounds clean. So now I have my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string and my ring finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. String 3 and string 1 are open and not blocked at all by any of the other fingers. Go ahead and press hard. Make sure your fingers are curved. Strum all 4 strings for a D7 chord with me. 1, 2, D7. D major with the index finger. D7. I know you see the difference, but do you hear the difference? Make sure that you're always listening to what you're playing. That may seem obvious, but I find it helpful to point that out. Sometimes we get very caught up in looking at our fingers and counting frets that we forget to actually listen to what we're playing. The third and final new chord that we're going to learn in the key of G major is the E minor chord. I'll show you 2 ways to play the E minor. Go ahead and put your fingers on a G major chord shape with the left hand. Let's hear that. G. Great. To get to an E minor from here, you can add your pinky to the 4th fret of the 3rd string like this. Pinky here. So now your index finger and pinky are on the same string. The index finger isn't doing anything at this point, but I do recommend leaving it there if you just came from a G chord. Here's what that sounds like. E minor. G. E minor. G. Do you hear the difference? The other E minor chord I happen to think sounds a little better, but it's a little bit tricky to play. We'll start with the ring finger or 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string. Then we'll add the pinky to the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Next, we'll add our middle finger to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And finally, our index finger is placed on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. This is the only chord that we've learned so far that does not involve any open strings. We have a finger on every single string. Let's hear it. E minor, press hard, make sure your fingers are curved. Not using any open strings might make the chord tricky to play, but I know you can do it. There you have it. 3 new chords in the key of G major. D chord, D7, and E minor. Now that we've familiarized ourselves with the chords most commonly used in the key of G major, let's take a look at the traditional Hawaiian song, Aloha Oi. We'll start with the chord progression in this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll learn the G major scale and the tune of the song. And finally, a little bit later down the road in this course, we'll learn the chord melody, combining both the chords and the tune of the song at the same time. It's a lot of fun. Let's take a look at the chord progression. We'll use strum pattern number 4. And to refresh your memory, strum pattern 4 goes like this. We'll use the G major chord to review the pattern, since the song is in the key of G, and we'll be playing quite a few G chords throughout. Here we go. Strum pattern number 4. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. That's the one that had 2 ups in a row. It's very common and very useful. If you're finding that too difficult at this point, you are more than welcome to switch to strum pattern 1 or 2. Now let's play the chord progression for Aloha Oi at a slow tempo with the metronome. I have my metronome set to 60 beats per minute. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, C chord. G is next. Here we go. D7. And G. G7. Next line, C chord. Back to G. Last line, D7. G, C, G. Nice job. I know that it's not easy to play with a metronome, but if you practice, you'll get better at it. Let's play through one more chord progression in the key of G major. For this progression, we'll do strum pattern number 2. Strum pattern number 2 goes like this. I'm going to use a G chord to show you. Down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down. That should be review. You already know that. This song is called Drifting, and you could find it in your workbook. We're going to play through the chord progression. The first chord is G, and once again, the strum pattern is down, down, up, down, up, down. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. The metronome is set to 63 beats per minute. See if you can keep up with me, but don't worry if you can't. You'll practice on your own. 63 beats per minute. Down, down, up, down, up, down. 1, 2, and G chord. C. A minor. D7. Second line, G. C. A minor. D7. E minor. And C. Next line, E minor. D. D7. Next line, G. C. A minor. And D7. Last line, G. C. A minor. D7. D7. End on G. I'll see you at the next lesson where we're going to learn how to play a G major scale and the melodies for both of these songs, Aloha Oi and Drifting.